Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
Orton bumps again to the sideline. Batted up. Oh, God! Stokely down the sideline. Can they catch him? Stokely! Wow! Touchdown! Denver! Unbelievable! Oh, my goodness! What a play!
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a Football Show, Week 16 in the National Football League, second to last week of the season, and the second week of college bowl games. Week 16 in the NFL pretty much solidified everything. Everybody is in the AFC, and then in the NFC, there are two spots technically open because the NFC North hasn't been clinched, but one of the Lions or Packers will be in. And then whoever doesn't win that will likely be the wild card, unless some crazy stuff happens. And we have all those scenarios that we'll get into when we get to them.
Normally, we're going into this weekend, the final weekend, where you've got at least two or three teams that have a laundry list of things that have to happen, and inevitably one of those things happens. And we really don't have that this year. Everything's pretty well locked up. The seeds are all pretty much set. I mean, you might get a little bit of movement in the AFC West with Kansas City, Oakland, but for the most part, I mean, we know who's in the AFC. It's just a matter of the seeding. And the NFC is down to the Packers, Lions, and whatever the result of that. I think Washington slides in somehow if the right things happen, and that's it.
Thursday, the Eagles beat the Giants 24-19. Giants have had trouble scoring recently.
I'm going to sell my stock in the Giants right now.
Really?
Yes, because they haven't scored over 20 points in the month of December. All of a sudden, the Giants went from a team I thought was an inevitable Super Bowl participant to a team I'm not so sure about all of a sudden. That game on Thursday was not exactly a must-win, but it was an important game for the Giants, and they came out and played terrible. And Philadelphia just beat their asses up and down the field. You can't let that happen in December.
Right now, the Giants are the 5 seed, and they would play the NFC North champion, which right now is Green Bay. The Packers are hot right now, but I think that they're a beatable unit. Overall.
Absolutely.
The Giants' struggles recently have kind of put a little damper on it for me, but I'm not selling all of it. I think they're still dangerous when they get in the playoffs, and as they've shown beating the Cowboys twice, they have that confidence that they could still be able to do that.
I do believe if they can get to playing Dallas for the NFC title, they can beat them. The problem is I don't know that they can get there. Who do you like better in a playoff game in January? Do you like Aaron Rodgers or Eli Manning? I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I tell you what, I'm even going to go so far as to say that if the Lions win this, and the Lions would get the home game against the Giants, right. I'm taking Matthew Stafford at Ford Field over Eli Manning too. I'm not selling completely on the Giants. I just think that their road to get there looks a lot tougher than I originally thought it was going to. I think if they can get to Dallas, they've got a really good shot. I just don't know if they can get there the way they've been playing lately.
I think I'll be more interested to see how they play this Sunday against Washington. I'm not totally jumping ship quite yet. I still like them a lot. I still think they're probably the second favorite coming out of the NFC right now. Roll into Saturday. We'll start in Buffalo, where the Dolphins, they had to rally here late. Matt Moore had to lead a late comeback. They win 34-31. They clinch a playoff spot, and the Buffalo Bills officially eliminated from the playoffs and gave the ownership the impetus to give the axe to Rex Ryan. So a lot of things to unpack here. But first, Dolphins officially in a playoff.
I'm as shocked as anybody by that. I'm glad to see it. I really like it. But we must have said 10 times in the first half of the season, we're not going to get caught up on these guys because they're not going to get there. And what do you think about Rex Ryan? I think that it was inevitable, first off. And secondly, I read an article today. The headline said, Rex Ryan, the Bills did not improve under him. And you know what? They're right. I don't see them as being any different the day after he left than the day before he got there. They're the same team throughout, and that's not what you hire a coach for.
No, 100%. He was the guy that was supposed to come in there and kind of re-energize that team, bring his defense. They had some defensive talent, and they were going to, start tearing things up. He was talking a lot of talk that they were going to, go head-to-head with the Patriots and all that. The fact of the matter is that the Bills didn't improve. You're right. I think that could also be a personnel thing. I think the defense maybe got a little worse over time. Maybe this is a team that should be doing more, but I'm not sure. One way or another, Rex Ryan didn't improve the team, and I guess that's a reason enough to fire him for Buffalo. But I think Buffalo still has a lot of other things to address.
If you go all the way back 17 weeks ago to our NFL preview, I think what we said about the Bills was basically that they were a team that if a couple breaks went the right way, they could be a playoff contender. But if they were a team that had breaks go the wrong way, they would be where they are now. I think we had them at 10-6 at best, 7-9 at worst, and the at worst happened. So I I don't know what you do with the Bills. I mean, you look at them and you go, you think they might be pretty good, but then you think they're not as good as you think they are. It's a weird thing. They're a weird team. They're kind of tough to get a read on because sometimes they look great and other times they look terrible. And
but they've been like this for the last 5 years.
Right, and that's why I think Rex Ryan had to go because nothing changed. They didn't hire him to stay the same. They wanted him to come in and make this team a 12-4 team, a team that would battle the Patriots for the dominance in that division, and they just never did that.
No, and the Dolphins and the Bills are two teams that are very ssimilar in a lot of ways. They've been right neck and neck with each other the last few years as those teams that got off to hot starts, struggled, and then they finish up 7-9, 8-8, and miss out on the playoffs. Things just went a little bit better for the Dolphins this season for once, and they're going to make the playoffs, and the Bills, not so much. Speaking of Patriots dominance, 41-3 over the Jets. They're going to be the number one seed in the AFC.
Boy, did the road just get a lot easier for them over the weekend. Yeah.
The Titans, who your irrational confidence, they go into Jacksonville and lay a big egg, 38-17. They did lose Marcus Mariota in this game, but they were down 19-7 at halftime. This is a game where the Titans should have come out hard and fast, trying to stay alive in that playoff race, and they go in and they lay an egg in Jacksonville.
I have two thoughts on the Titans with this. First off, they're 8-7 right now, which, again, going back to the NFL preview, I would have never guessed in a million years. I had them competing with the Browns and the 49ers as one of the worst teams in the league. That they're 8-7 is a real tribute to how successful they were this season, but by the same token, once you get to this level, you can't go into Jacksonville, who just fired their coach, isn't very good, and lose like this. It's kind of a double-edged sword for the Titans. It's nice to see them do this well, but when you get to this level, you got to play at this level all the time, and they weren't able to do that. With the Jaguars, this is the team that we'd been expecting to see flashes of under the Gus Bradley regime that we never really saw. And they just came out and they played inspired football. Even Blake Bortles, I think, was halfway decent.
The thing that the Titans can look back on is like the death of their season. The Titans are 1-4 in divisional games. Houston is 5-0 divisional games.
There's your difference.
1-4 in what most people think is the worst division in football isn't going to get you much.
In that division, you make your living off beating the teams in that division, and the Titans weren't able to do that, and that's why they're in the spot they're in, too. The only team in that division that even worried me a little bit, if I were playing them, would be the Colts, just because they can catch fire, and you can see what happens. I mean, they've done it a couple times, what they did to Minnesota a couple weeks ago, but other than that, all these teams are just not very good, and the Titans had an opportunity here, and they didn't get it done, but they're still going to finish the season at least 8-8, which is kind of cool. I guess it just depends on which side of the coin you want to look at.
We'll move over from your irrational confidence Titans to your irrational confidence Vikings.
This game was never, ever as close as the score would indicate. The Packers took the foot off the gas probably midway through the second half, but they came out and just dominated the Vikings early. And the Vikings made a couple nice runs, but the Packers just answered everything they had. And this Vikings team started out 5-0. They are now 7-8.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what to blame it on at this point. I mean, you could say it's all Sam Bradford, but honestly, he hasn't played that poorly.
The defense has just given up on him. The offensive line play has been pretty bad. It's a whole lot of stuff. The
defense really let them down a lot in this season because Bradford was, again, not great, but serviceable enough to, with that defense, they should have been able to win some more games, and they fell apart. I thought the team was going to be better than this. I think we both did, and they just weren't able to keep it together.
I think probably the biggest result of the weekend overall, Greg, the Cleveland Browns, 20, the San Diego Chargers, 17. The Browns won a football game.
This is what's so beautiful about it. The Browns won the football game, yet still managed to hang on to the number one draft pick all on the same day. That might be the best football weekend in Cleveland in years.
The little video here that's next to the ESPN box score has Joe Thomas, and the headline just says, Joe Thomas says, I shouldn't be this happy about winning one football game.
You know, I will say this about the Cleveland Browns. They had a terrible, terrible season. There's no other way to describe it. But you never heard a lot of backbiting or people complaining and stuff. I mean, they really kept it together as a team. That really says a lot about Hugh Jackson and the way they feel about him as a coach. The blame game didn't start. You didn't start hearing stuff coming out of the locker room, which I think is good. That's a good sign for the Browns. And as I said before, they're set up. If they can manage to not screw it up, they've got a ton of draft picks coming up. They've got a lot of salary cap space. They could get better in a hurry if they do it right.
Aren't they going to have 2 top 10 picks this year?
If things stay the way they are, they will have the number 1 pick and the number 10 pick in this year's draft.
That's a good spot to start building. I hope they don't think that because they have all these draft picks, they need to trade them to maybe like get a better pick or trade them for players. If you're smart, you just take all the draft picks, pick as many young players you can get, and see what kind of talent you get.
It would be very tempting to go for the quick fix right now, and God knows they're in a position to do it, but A smart team will do exactly what you said. We're going to just keep building with what we've got and build a good foundation, and maybe finally, at long last, dig yourselves out of this hole you've been in since you came back to the league in '99.
Move over to Chicago, where the Redskins win 41-21. They move up to 8-6-1, still technically alive in the playoffs. Do you have what they need to do?
For the indigenous peoples to make it into the playoffs, they need Washington needs to win, plus Green Bay and Detroit cannot end in a tie. That's one scenario. The second one is Washington ties and the Packers lose, plus Tampa Bay loses or ties. That's how they get in. Kind of complicated, but if they win and the Packers and Detroit don't tie, then the indigenous peoples are in the playoffs. So that's pretty simple.
Okay. If the Redskins win, they'll get into the playoffs no matter what.
As long as the Packers and Lions don't tie, yes.
Right, so they'll overtake whoever loses that game.
And they can even get in if they tie. If Washington ties, but the Packers lose and Tampa Bay loses or ties, they still get in. So they've actually got a pretty easy road. They've just got to go out and win. And who do they play this week?
Giants.
Well, this will be interesting.
No, like I said, this will be a nice way to see what the Giants are made of.
Yeah,
the Redskins have everything to play for. Falcons win 33-16. They are the NFC South champs. And let's see what the win. They are the second seed right
Number
now.
2 seed. Okay, I'm going to ask you again. I've been asking every week. Are you a little more on board with the Falcons yet?
No.
I'm all in with these guys. I think they're pretty good.
I don't know.
I think they're pretty good.
I don't understand how they're a 10-win team, to be perfectly honest. Like, yes, they get a lot of offense from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and the rest, but I don't know.
Under the right circumstances, given the right day, they can knock off anybody. I think that they've reached that level. And you look at their schedule, and they've got some nice wins on there. So, and they score a lot of points. I like them. I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch in the playoffs.
The Buccaneers took a big hit on Sunday. They lose to the Saints 24-31 on the road. They needed to win this to really stay in contention. They're still technically alive going into Week 17, though. And here's the list of things that the Buccaneers need to happen. First off, they need to beat Carolina. That can be done. They need Tennessee to beat Houston. Can be done. They need Indianapolis to beat Jacksonville. Can be done. They need Dallas to beat Philadelphia, which can be done. They also need Detroit to beat Green Bay, which can be done. But the improbable things they need to happen. First, they need the Niners to beat the Seahawks. And then the one which, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, has a 0.3% chance of happening. The Giants and Redskins need to tie.
This is the best example of saying someone's mathematically alive is like your girlfriend saying she wants to see other people. It's not over, but it's over. I think this is a great example of that. But, hey, you know what? You never know. That aside, though, I think the Bucs had a pretty good season, an unexpected season. They're going to be at least 8-8 when it's all said and done, too, and I think that's better than we thought they were going to be.
Speaking of those Seahawks that they need to lose, the Cardinals outlast the Seahawks 34-31. Carson Palmer, in his time with the Cardinals, is 3-0 in Seattle, which is same thing considering how good the Seahawks have been at home. And this is the first loss for the Seahawks at home this season.
I just think with this Cardinals team, they're the biggest disappointment in the league for me this year. I think they're a good team. They're going to end up finish up maybe 7-8-1 is the best record they can come away with. Yeah. I don't know what happened with these guys. I just don't, because I think there's a lot of talent there. You've got David Johnson. Fitz is still a pretty good player. You've got some good receivers, good solid defense. I just don't know what happened to these guys. I really thought they'd be better than this year.
The Raiders win 33-25 over the Colts, but potential MVP candidate Derek Carr, he goes down with a broken fibula, out for the rest of the regular season, of course, and out for a majority of the playoffs. That's as big a loss as you could get.
Yeah, that really hurt. I mean, I was just, it was just a terrible thing to see happen to the Raiders because they were one of the best chances to keep the Patriots out.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is now that the Raiders, if they lose this weekend with Matt LaGloin at quarterback, which is entirely possible, and Kansas City wins, then Kansas City will win the division, and the Raiders will fall down to the 5th seed. They'll play Houston, even with Matt McGloin. I think that's a team they could beat. But it's a rough thing all around for Oakland because they've already dropped out of the top seed once. But if they lose and they don't even get a home game out of it, despite the season they've had, you would love to see Oakland and the Black Hole get a home playoff game in what may be their final season in Oakland too. You never know how that plays out.
Right. It was just a shame because they had such a great season, and now you're putting your hopes on a guy that's got very little playing time, and who knows.
Yeah, we haven't been shy about how much we like this Raiders team, how much we like Derek Carr, and so this is a rough one to see for a team that was so fun.
Just a terrible, terrible break for the Raiders.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, too, this just makes the Patriots road to the Super Bowl so much easier, which is the last thing you want to see.
Exactly. Saturday night, the Texans beat the Bengals 12-10. Houston clinches the division with the win over the Bengals.
All I can say about this game is these are two bad football teams. One of them is going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know if
the Texans are even that much better than the Bengals.
I don't think they are. 12-10, it was just a lot of bad football. You got a Bengals team that didn't even care, and the Texans couldn't put these guys away when they really needed the win. It's just bad football all around.
Christmas Sunday, we had two games. The Steelers beat the Ravens 31-27. I believe that clinched the division for Pittsburgh at 10-5. Baltimore is outside the playoffs, 8-7.
This is just a great comeback by the Steelers. Just a great game. And they're our best hope, I still say, for a non-Patriot Super Bowl this year, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And then Sunday night, a matter-of-fact thing is the Broncos just aren't the team they were at the start of the season when these teams first played. 21-7 coming out of the fourth quarter. The Chiefs go on to cruise 33-10. Stay a game behind the Raiders, potentially still alive for that division title going into Week 17.
I so want to get on board with this Chiefs team because I've always liked them. And you see a game like this where they just had no trouble at all with the Denver Broncos, who have a very good defense. And you see them like this and you go, maybe they can do it. But then you start thinking about it. I don't think that they're at that level with the Patriots. I'd like them to be, but I just don't think they're there.
And then on Monday nights, the Cowboys beats the Lions 42-21. The Cowboys 13-2 clinched everything they can clinch already going into Week 17.
I like that the Cowboys, with nothing to play for, and the Lions with something to play for, the Cowboys showed up and just dominated in this game. If there was anything left to show me, they showed it to me last night in this game. They're just damn impressive.
Into college, we've gone through, about a week and a half of bowl games, and
or 1/10 of them if you're doing the math.
Through 16 games as of Tuesday afternoon. Greg and I are 8-8 going into Tuesday's games.
We are like a game between the Saints and the Buccaneers. It's probably entertaining, but you don't have to worry about either one of us winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I had an early 2-game lead, and then you came back to take a game lead over me, and then we both started losing games and alternating, and now we're at 8-8. So we'll see what we can do. The number of bowls obviously tick up this week. We have 4 today on Tuesday, 4 tomorrow on Wednesday. We've already picked both of those days, so we won't go over them again. We'll go over any big results next week. But
we're just going to basically pick the rest of the bowl season here, and then we'll wrap it all up next week, right?
Pick the rest of the bowl season, and including the college football playoff games. Those are happening on New Year's Eve. We will come back around to those last because those are the most important. So we'll start Thursday. We got the Birmingham Bowl in, wouldn't you know, Birmingham, Alabama. South Florida, South Carolina.
Wow, that's a good matchup, I think.
Yeah, actually not bad.
I'm going to take the South Florida Bulls just because I don't have any faith in South Carolina. They can be good, they can be bad, and I'm going to take the Bulls. I just like them better. That's my best reasoning for it.
Yeah, I think the same. South Carolina hasn't been great recently, and I think South Florida's been okay. So, not that we're going to get too far away from 8-8 by picking the same team, but sometimes you can't avoid it. The Belk Bowl in Charlotte, North Carolina, Arkansas versus number 22 Virginia Tech. Wow. I learned that Belk is a department store?
Yes, it's like a TJ Maxx. A southern version of TJ Maxx, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Wow, that's a tough pick.
I like Arkansas a lot. I think the Razorbacks have been pretty tough.
They have. Yeah, you know what?
Tech has shown its might, but I like Arkansas.
You know what? I'm exact opposite. I like the Hokies in this one. So there you go. Now we've got we don't have to worry about being tied. I like the Hokies. I think that. But man, Arkansas has been really tough. They're, I think, a team that's a lot better than the record would indicate. But I'm going to take the Hokies in this one.
Mm-hmm. The Valero Alamo Bowl in the Alamo Dome, probably the best game up to this point. Number 10 Colorado, number 12 Oklahoma State.
Ooh.
An an old Big 12 matchup from back in the day, but they're in the Alamo Bowl, San Antonio, number 10, number 12. Buffs and Cowpokes.
Boy, I really want to go with Colorado. I want to pick the Buffs because I love the fact that they're back and having a good season.
Mm-hmm.
But at Oklahoma State, man,
they can put up some points.
They can put up some points. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one.
As much as I'm a Pac-12 kind of guy, I agree. I just think Colorado's had a great season, and it's great that they're here, but they're probably a little disappointed. They've been dealing with some injuries. I like Oklahoma State in this one.
You know what? I just based on what you just said, I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to go with Colorado because I think they're excited to be here, even though it's just the Alamo Bowl. I mean, you got to remember where these guys came from, which they were going like 0-12, 2-10. So they're back in the thick of things. I'm changing my pick. I'm going to go with the Buffaloes. I think they win this one.
All right, so you say.
All right.
We go to Friday, December 30th. And we open with the AutoZone Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee. Georgia, the Dogs, taking on the Frogs, TCU.
Wow. That's a tough one to call, too.
Yeah, Georgia, to me, Georgia underwhelmed.
Yeah, they've made a living at it for the past 8 or 9 years.
But, I mean, TCU did that a fair bunch, too, this season. But I think TCU is a stronger overall team just with a lot of firepower. But, again, Big 12, how much defense do they play? So
right.
Mileage may vary there.
I'm taking the Bulldogs in this one. I think just based on that alone that TCU might be able to score points, but we're talking Georgia, they underwhelmed, but they are an SEC team. They're going to have at least some semblance of a defense, so I'm taking the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. Do I want to take TCU? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of the way I'm on this one, too. Like, if I had to bet, I'd just stay away from this game.
Yeah, me too, but I'll go with Georgia. The Hyundai Sun Bowl, El Paso, Texas, number 18 Stanford, and North Carolina. This game, one of the few not on ESPN, this one on CBS.
You got the Tar Heels, who had a pretty good season, but kind of blew a couple of chances to have a really great season. And you got the Cardinal. Of course, Christian McCaffrey's not going to play for Stanford. I'm going with the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And the most forgotten bowl in all of bowldom because, A, it's not on ESPN, and B, it's the Sun Bowl, and everybody's always like, oh, that's right, the Sun Bowl.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Stanford. I think that they're still strong enough, and North Carolina, I don't have any reasoning.
Right.
Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, Nashville, Tennessee. The Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the home team, number 21, Tennessee.
This could be a good game, I think.
Could be, yeah.
Two evenly matched teams.
Nebraska's been better than many thought they were going to be this year, but Tennessee also was a team that would be down at halftime, make a lot of great late comebacks. Couldn't do it all the time later in the season, but.
Well, do I stay home with the Big Ten, or do I pick the team with my favorite mascot in all of sports, and Smokey? You know what? Rocky Top. I'm taking the Vols in this one.
Rocky Top.
Yep.
I was going to go with Nebraska anyway, so
all right.
Nebraska for me, Cornhuskers.
Okay.
Even though as a child I was taught to huck the Fuskers, I think is what it was.
Huck the Fuskers?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Because, corn. It makes sense. You huck corn, right?
Right, yep.
This is a very interesting game for a lot of reasons. Nova Home Loans Arizona Bowl played in Tucson, and the game will be broadcast online at Campus Insiders.
What's our matchup?
Oh, sorry. South Alabama, the Jaguars taking on the Air Force Falcons.
I will always pick the Air Force or the military academy. So give me the Air Force Falcons.
Yeah, I would go with the Air Force also because I don't know if South Alabama knows how to get to Tucson or knows how to find Campus Insiders on their web browser.
Well, I think a lot of people might have that problem. But give me the Falcons and that crazy triple option offense that I love so much. I'm taking the Falcons.
Mm-hmm. And then the first of the New Year's Six, which because of the insistence on having the playoff games where they are, and some games have to be played on New Year's Day, et cetera, the Orange Bowl moves all the way to December 30th. So that's a little weird wrinkle. But the Orange Bowl, the Capital One Orange Bowl, number 6 Michigan, number 11 Florida States at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens.
This might be the best matchup outside the playoffs in all the bowls.
This is a really good one. I like this game a lot. I'm going to go with Michigan.
Okay.
Florida State just was a letdown a little too many times than they should have been. They have a lot of talent. There's no denying that. But I think Michigan has just been a little bit more battle-tested over the course of things.
To me, there are two ways to look at this game. Michigan, I think, is the better team overall. But where are their heads at after not making the playoff and losing to Ohio State in overtime?
Yeah.
That's the thing. But then again, you've got Jim Harbaugh. Wow. I want to pick Michigan. But
Florida State is the home team, of course, playing in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's not like there won't be plenty of Michigan fans down there.
You know, I don't have any faith in Florida State because of the letdowns. I'm sticking with the Wolverines. I'm uncomfortable with it, but I'm going to stick with the Wolverines in this one.
All right. So we'll move from then to Saturday, New Year's Eve. The playoff games will be played that night, but we'll get them in just a second. We'll start with the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl down in Orlando. You get number 20 LSU, number 13 Louisville.
Wow, that's a tough one too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of angles on these teams. Louisville, despite being number 13, they had a lot of letdowns late in the season.
Yeah.
To Houston and to Kentucky of all freaking teams.
Yeah.
And LSU, they were struggling early, but Ed Orgeron came in and got them to rally a bit down the stretch to finish off pretty strong.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. I was thinking about I'm going to go with the Tigers. I like that because of Ed Orgeron. I like what he did with that team towards the end of the season. And Louisville might be a little bit disappointed that they're not in a better spot than they are. So, but I don't know that I trust the LSU offense to keep up with Louisville, but I'm going to stick with the Tigers. I'm taking LSU.
I'm going to take that last point and run with it because I like Lamar Jackson on a big stage here, trying to make his name. Wins the Heisman. People doubting him a little bit, maybe.
Yep.
He can show everybody like, hey, I can play even against a top tier SEC school despite having a bad game against Kentucky. So I'll go with the Cardinals.
Okay.
Tax Slayer, formerly known as the Gator Bowl. Down in Jacksonville, Georgia Tech, and the aforementioned Kentucky Wildcats.
Oh man, now this is killing me. I like the Wildcats because my entire family's from Kentucky, so they're kind of like in my DNA. But I love the Yellow Jackets and that triple option offense. I'm taking Tech. I got to go with Tech. Sorry, home folks, but I got to go with the team I think is going to win this game. I think it's going to be Georgia Tech.
And I got to go with the team that thinks going to win this game, and it's Kentucky.
All right. And, folks, I swear we're not doing this just to make sure we don't end up with the same record. These are legitimate picks.
100%.
Yep.
And, of course, we skip over New Year's Day because that is for the NFL this year because it's on a Sunday. So we move to Monday, January 2nd. The Outback Bowl, number 17 Florida, and the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Wow.
In Tampa.
If you don't want to see a lot of points scored, this is the game you should watch.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Man, that's a tough one, too.
Florida can't really score, but the defense is really good. Iowa can maybe score a little bit more points, but against who?
Yeah. I'm taking – you know what? I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to go with my Iowa Hawkeyes. I think they win this game 13-10.
It's probably going to be the final score no matter what, but I'll go with Florida. I believe in them a little bit more. Yeah, Iowa has a good win over Michigan, but I'll go with Florida.
And if you're looking for a 48-41 score, this is probably not the game you want to watch.
No. You can, if you really want something high scoring, maybe you go to the other New Year's Six game being played that day at the very same time. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, number 15 Western Michigan Broncos and the number 8 Wisconsin Badgers.
We talked about this way back. I said that of all the big teams that Western Michigan would have to play, Wisconsin was probably their best matchup. I liked their chances best against Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. But do I like them enough to pick them? My guts.
Great story, undefeated.
Yeah, but
they haven't played a team
anybody
close to Wisconsin. You know?
No, I'm taking the Badgers in an easy win. Easy win.
I want Western Michigan to maybe make this game competitive at the very least, but
I'd love to see them win it. I just don't think they're going to.
Oh yeah, of course. And maybe you have a Boise State situation, but it's just.
If they had played even anybody good, just anybody, I'd be more apt to pick them. But yeah,
I can't get on board with them either.
No, I'm going with the Badgers all the way.
5 o'clock, the perfect setting for any college football game ever. Every football game should be played here as the sun sets over the San Gorgonio Mountains. Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern in Pasadena, California. Number 9, USC. Number 5, Penn State.
I like your USC Trojans in this game, and I like them to win big.
I like it too.
I don't. I'm not buying this Penn State nonsense. I think that the Trojans are just a better football team.
Yeah, maybe the Penn State will be like, well, we were snubbed and whatever. I don't think Penn State is the 5th best team in the country. I don't think they were a top 10 team the whole time. Yes, they had they fought hard and they beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten, and they upset Ohio State, but I just don't think they're that good. And I like USC. They came on strong towards the end of the year. I'll take the Trojans.
Yeah, me too. Trojans all the way.
And to wrap up the bowl schedule, the All-State Sugar Bowl, number 14, Auburn, number 7, Oklahoma, and I think I know where we're going to go with this.
Well, I'm taking Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Oklahoma either. And I think Auburn's got more to play for in this for some strange reason. First off, it's a Sugar Bowl. Yeah. It's an SEC home game every time. And I think that Auburn wants to prove that Oklahoma are imposters just as much as we want to prove it. So I'm taking the Auburn Tigers.
I don't want to believe in Oklahoma, but I don't believe that much in Auburn, to be perfectly honest, either. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I think that they have a little bit more offensive firepower and maybe can overturn Auburn. And not like Oklahoma's defensive stalwart or anything. And, they did lose to Ohio State pretty big when they played. But I'm going to go with the Sooners.
Okay.
All right. And then in the college football playoffs, 2 games on December 31st, Scroll all the way back up. The first game, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, ESPN. The Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at the Georgia Dome. Number 4, Washington. Number 1, Alabama. Can the Huskies pull off the upset, shake up the college football world?
No.
Probably not. Probably not. As much as I want to pick Washington, we've been saying it for months. This has just been a long walk to an Alabama coronation,
yep.
And I don't see any reason to make that any different.
I will say that I think the Huskies will make it interesting for a little while. Because teams have done that against Alabama this year. They've made it interesting for a little while. But then Alabama becomes Alabama, and all of a sudden you forget that 20 minutes ago this game was pretty close. And now they're down 30. So the Tide, I think, went easy. Great to see the Huskies back on the national stage, but boy, did you get the short end of this stick.
Mm-hmm. And then the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, number 3, Ohio State, number 2, Clemson, Glendale, Arizona.
Game of the playoffs right here.
You gonna go homer pick?
I have to. Got to, right?
Ohio State. Your Buckeyes.
I'm taking my Buckeyes, riding them all the way to another championship.
Riding all the way to a championship without even winning the Big Ten.
It's been that kind of year.
Clemson. Man, they're a good team, but I don't think they're as good as they were last year. I think that they've shown holes throughout this season, and I think Ohio State is just a physical monster. I want to punish Ohio State for some reason, for not being Big Ten champs, but I got to go with you too. I got to go Ohio State. That's college football for the upcoming week, going into the new year. As Chris Berman would say on what's going to be his final weekend of NFL football, may we be the last to wish you a Merry Christmas and the first to wish you a Happy New Year.